I am so sorry for what your daddy passed down to you.
Beau is Afraid is Ari Aster's third feature-length movie and a continuation of his theme of trying to unsettle his audiences. This movie follows Beau, played by Joaquin Phoenix, and his journey home. Heck yeah.
Is it Joaquin? I always thought it was Joaquin.
Yeah, it's Joaquin.
Jacqueline.
Phoenix. Hooked on Phoenix. So Beau walks home through a horror scene of death, destruction, rudeness, trash. And Beau has to run as fast as he can into his door so he isn't attacked by a man outside. Sparks welcome him to his floor from his elevator. Warnings about brown recluse spiders are shown, and we see one lurking in his apartment that he doesn't see. He's surrounded by possible issues and fears. This is where I have anxiety, and I have like felt that worst case scenario spiral in my head, and I've like had thoughts that those types of things could happen. Like, I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna get stabbed by somebody walking. You know what I mean? But they never like manifested as long as his did, and I thought it was a really interesting way to show anxiety, and like it felt very real to me. Like, oh yeah, if I see a warning about a spider, I'm pretty sure they're in my house. I'm never going to see them until they kill me. And like all of that felt very real.
And they keep popping up. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is when I started to think, are all these real, or are we just seeing what's happening to him? Because I read that Ari Aster wanted us to experience the movie through Beau's point of view, and I thought that this was not how the world is, but how he sees the world.
See, I don't know. I definitely agree with that to a point, but I think there's a problem with claiming that everything is like the unreliable narrator. Because obviously a lot of this stuff is coming from, okay, we're experiencing this through Beau's anxiety. Not all of this is to be taken literally. But I think that's where the trick in this movie is I think it's very easy to explain everything as that, and I don't think that's the case.
That's a very good point. Yeah, it's like the unreliable narrator's unreliable narrator. Like, are we to take all of this as that because we're told that that's what it is and that's what he's been told his whole life, or is there some of it that's real? And like, there's a moment when I think he comes out of it and it's real, and then it's not real again. But yeah, that's a really good point. I like that.
I kind of, because I was so stuck on the suicide note, I kind of read it as a possible like suicide by pills and like regret.
Sure.
Like just like kind of, I
maybe,
don't know. There was a lot of tub and pill imagery.
Maybe he didn't make it out of the attic.
He didn't make it out of his tub in the beginning. Like that's where where I have trouble with the movie. Like I was like, at one point at the end, I was like, is this all just like a end of life hallucination of shit going down? Like, I don't know. Well, I don't like that explanation. No, I don't, because I would be mad if that was the explanation. But like,
this wasn't my thought. This was from one that I had read. They said that he did die when he came.
Oh,
and that's when he died. And then everything since then was
that. I like that better.
Yeah.
So
I could track like if he died, like the last. We see unreliable narrator like madness in him going across the street into his apartment. And then he writes a suicide note. And then from then on, all the stuff that I'm like, this doesn't make any sense happens. And I'm like, did he just like commit suicide? And this is like his last, like, because that is after he disappointed his mom, but before he finds out she's dead, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, he found out she was dead when he went into the tub. But
yeah,
but not when he's writing the suicide note that night.
Nope.
But yeah, I don't know. That was after he missed his flight. This is like what would have happened.
So here's my read on this movie. What we're watching up to about the last third, up until he realizes that it's not his mom in the coffin. He is going through the 5 stages of grief. First one is anger. Right, he lives in a very angry world. Like the whole world around him is angry, like riled up. And then it's denial. Like anger's already there, so like anger and denial are kind of one and the same. Denial is him like obviously on the phone, not saying that his mom died. And then when he gets to the house after being hit by a car, they tell him it's in your dreams or whatever. And then it's bargaining. The whole time he's in that house with the suburbanites, he's bargaining with them to leave earlier. Like I need to leave, I need to go. Don't paint, don't do the drugs, don't delay in me leaving. And then there's depression, which is him seeing the life he could have had in that play. The whole play to me was depression. It was, what could you have had? What did you lose out by living the way that you did? Who are you now? And then acceptance is him coming to the house and like finally being there. And then he snaps out of it when he realizes it's not his mom. And then it lost me from there. I don't know what it's about. Just weird. That's how I saw it.
See, and I don't know. That's I think it sort of leads to my final summary and feelings on this movie is, I said before, for me the most satisfying explanation is it's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit unreliable narrator, a little bit artistic choice, and then a little bit just like the world is actually wacky because his mom's a psycho and is controlling everything. Mm-hmm. But I think some parts are clearly one of those things, and a lot of parts could be any of those things. And I don't see that as a good thing, personally. I don't mind a bit of ambiguity in movies, or a little bit of you don't know how it ended, or you don't know. I think this movie has too much of that to be fully satisfying.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah, I think that's a fair... I would agree on most parts of that, yeah.
And in spite of that, visually great movie. I think it definitely has a lot of great moments. I still really enjoyed it, and I think that the discussion that you could have with anyone who has also seen this movie would make this movie worth watching. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of strange because I don't think it was that good. I don't know. That's too simplified. I think it has major flaws.
Yeah, I think it had a lot to say, but then ended up saying nothing, which is why I think you can discuss about it a lot. But at the end of the day, it's like, what did I get out of seeing this? I don't know. And that's not in a good way either.
It feels like 3 or 4 ideas, and we should have focused on one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because it's also one of those movies that no matter how much you discuss it, no matter how many different takes you read on it, no one will ever know, except maybe Ari Aster, if he ever decides to tell anyone. Yeah. But as a filmmaker, I don't think there's any reason why he would do that.
No. Yeah. No. He did that with the movie, is what he's thinking, probably. I already told you what's going on. Yeah, it's all there.
I actually, when I looked for, what is this movie about, breakdown, whatever, I was scraping through an article really fast, and I saw something about Ari Aster saying he was worried it was too obvious, and everything was up there on the screen. And I was like, don't worry, bro.
Yeah, we're good. You're good.
You got it.
You're good. If he ever listens to this, he's like, no, you guys nailed it. You had it all. You figured it out.
That's it. It's a big fuck you to people who try to figure out movies.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, shit, I forgot about the fast forwarding.
Wait. I was scrolling through my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything, and I'm so mad. I missed. At the beginning, I wrote, "City is terrible. This is what your Republican relatives think cities are like."
Yes.
Man.
Could not be more true.
The first thing that popped into my head.
Oh, my God. Libtards. What would you drink with this movie? I put water.
I like that.
Spider water. Would you?
I was thinking some sort of soothing tea.
Ooh, yeah, a little chai tea. Tea.
Yeah, because even as a viewer, I'm like, you need to calm down.
Well, I need a break.
Hot water from Nathan's mug. Paint. Ooh, paint's a good one. God,
Don't actually brutal. Drink paint. Yep, another young daughter being killed in a very horrifying way. Yep. Yay. I wonder what Ari Aster's family's like.
I was literally used to that, and I'm like, if he had a little sister that died under mysterious circumstances, I know who did it.
I think it's... She fell on the fork right in her eyeball. Don't know what to tell you.
Or just his parents, people who's... Anyone who knows his parents who watch this movie are just like, are you guys okay?
Yeah, what are his friends telling?
What did you do?
If he writes the script and sends it to his friends, they're like, what the fuck, dude? Who do you send that to? So, yeah, I think our thoughts are maybe watch it, but probably not. You're okay if you don't.
I honestly, I would recommend this. Well, here's understanding that it's wacky, surreal, super long,
Yeah.
and it's got a giant penis in it. You're not going to tell your grandma to watch this movie, right?
Grandma's
But but for anyone who that you think would be fine with these things,
Yeah.
I think it is worth a watch.
Okay.
I think it's a cool enough watch, and it's a cool enough story, and I don't know. I'm in a weird place because normally with these movies I'm like, fuck that, but this one I'm like, I still don't get it, but it's worth a watch.
I think I would have really liked this movie as 5 1-hour shorts as a miniseries. Like, first episode he's in the apartment, second episode he's in the house, third episode he's in the forest, fourth episode he's at his mom's house, fifth episode big reveal. I think I would have enjoyed it way more because I think they could have said a little bit more with it. It feels like it's in between.
I think
those
I
two.
would have been pissed at that last episode.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it. I think if you want surrealism, there's better stuff. If you want anxiety-inducing, even this year, if you want anxiety-inducing suspense, there's a better movie out there.
Yeah.
And All My Friends Hate Me. Like,
Oh yeah.
it was fine, but like I think there's better use of your time, especially for a 3-hour movie.
Yeah. That's a hard sell. 3 hours.
I will say the 3 hours of it was well handled. There was constantly stuff happening. The screen kept you engaged because there was no, and they can do this with the wacky surrealism of it, especially like in the first act when they're at Beau's house, like all the graffiti. And that's the thing too. Like if you remember going back to the graffiti, penises everywhere.
Yeah. A lot of dicks.
Right? And at first you think
love
it's graffiti, it's
the visual
penises.
storytelling in this
Yes.
movie. So much of it, like the changes of time where it just flashes.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the Easter eggs. I loved the like down to when he's at his mom's house and the her mom's mom, before she ever gets brought up, the first time we see the portrait of the mom, she's peering from behind a pillar. Like the pillar is covering the face and the eye, and as this camera moves, the mom like pokes her head out. And I was like, that I didn't even know who that was, and I was like, that's creepy as fuck, and it was definitely on purpose.
Nice.
Like Ari Aster really pays attention to what is in the frame.
Yeah.
And it's
And
really good.
Yeah, and that's I think where I get a lot of where I'd say, okay, storyline wise, it's so weird too because it's a cool story. It's just confusing to the point where it's not satisfying. But
Yeah.
I would still say the movie's worth a watch just based on the cool and surreal visuals.
I think you can get enough. I was gonna say I'm going to go rewatch, and I'm like, I want to have Taylor watch literally from the second he sits down at the theater to the end, and you get all of that. Like I loved in the theater hallucination how the use of blur is used as the characters become more concrete and less concrete. Like their faces blur, and then it goes from being a animated thing to like a real life, but with like stage. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
all of
the-
it, I
like
think,
the
is
use of
on
stage
purpose, like
props
meaningful. Yeah. But that's all I want out of the movie. That's like enough right there. Is that 20-minute? And I think you're right. Like you could pull a couple 20-minute, like him running from his therapist to
great
that.
scene.
Like that's a short film. Like I would watch that.
Yeah.
But there are big chunks of it that I don't want to see. I don't want someone else to watch.
It's in one of the very first scenes when he's like just going through the city, and because I remember this kid's playing with a boat, and the boat, the mom comes, takes him away, and the boat flips and sinks.
Yeah.
And so I remember that as soon as the movie ended, and I'm like, that's why I think on a second watch through of this movie, I think this movie is just dense with references to itself. And
Even
and
that,
I
the mom's,
bet
that's
it's
a
amazingly
reference.
done. Yeah.
That mom like freaking out is a reference to his anxiety about that one time when he like ran away from his mom at the mall.
Oh yeah.
And like
again,
if it's unreliable narrator, he's just seeing a mom being like, "Come on," and he sees it as her screaming at him. You know.
The other thing that we didn't mention, but I saw mentioned a lot, was water. Just water as a constant theme of this movie, even down to the name Wasserman, which Wasser Wasser means water
Oh,
in German.
dang. That's wild. Look at that.
Intense.
Very dense. Go, maybe read about it.